You think you cannot save because you lack discipline. That diagnosis is the trap, and tonight I am going to prove it with a ruler. Look at the exact distance between your hand and your phone right now. 4 inches. 8. 12. Give me the number you know it is. Not the number you want it to be. That number is not a measurement of your willpower. It is the width of the leak in your savings account. And I am going to price that leak for you. Down to the dollar. Here is the arithmetic I want you to hold while you watch. A $42 delivery order. Tapped at 10:18 on a Thursday night. Once a week. Is $2,184 a year. Your salary looks at that number and calls it nothing. 1%? A rounding error. A convenience you have every right to pay for. Your salary is lying to you. Because $2,184 is not 1% of the number that actually decides your life. It is nearly 44% of a number almost nobody measures. Before this video is over, I will show you that number. I will show you why the entire system is built on the hope that you never find it. And I will show you the one piece of architecture that has been quietly protecting it for the people who save without even appearing to try. That is why you cannot save. No matter how hard you try. Not because you are weak. Because the easiest motion in the room was engineered to be the most expensive one. And maybe your button is not food. Maybe it is a cart? A game. A checkout page. The button changes. The hour does not. I take apart money systems for a living, the wiring that decides where a paycheck actually goes after it clears. And here is the first line in the file. The enemy is not the purchase. The enemy is the default path. Spending your money has been engineered to require less motion than protecting it. 1 tap to order. 1 saved card to check out. 1 glowing icon waiting on the home screen at the exact hour your judgment runs out. Protecting the same money requires a login, a password, a transfer screen, and a decision made by a brain that has already spent its last decision somewhere between the office and the kitchen. You are not an undisciplined person. You are a high-value target. Your tired hours are inventory. They are bought, sold, and scheduled for collection by companies whose entire business model is the 4 inches between your hand and the glass. The delivery app did not show you that notification at 9 in the morning. When you could have said no for free, it waited 12 hours. Until the part of you that defends money had gone to bed. That is not temptation. That is collection. If you think the default path is an accident, a side effect of technology getting faster, I want to show you the receipt. In September of 1999, the United States Patent Office granted patent number 5,960,411. The filing described a method for purchasing items with, quote, a single action. You know it as the one-click buy button. The company that owned it understood exactly what it had. It sued a rival bookseller within a month of receiving the patent to stop anyone else from removing the same friction. Then it licensed the button to Apple. Think about what that means. The most valuable thing these companies ever built was not a product. It was the removal of the pause, the 2 or 3 seconds between wanting a thing and owning it. The only window in which the part of your brain that defends money has time to show up for work. They patented the death of that window. For nearly 2 decades, the law treated the absence of friction as protected intellectual property. And when the patent expired in 2017, the design escaped into checkout pages across the internet. The ghost of that filing lives in the small vibration your thumb feels when a purchase clears. That pulse is the machine's only receipt. That is the room you walk into every evening. Not a store. A machine. Engineered and litigated for decades. To make sure the path toward spending is always 1 motion shorter than the path toward keeping, now put a clock on the collection. Because the machine does not collect around the clock. Your margin is not decided during business hours. At 9 in the morning, your defenses are funded. Judgment full. The word no still available at no cost. The collection window opens at 6 in the evening. When you walk through the front door spent, and it closes after midnight. When you finally sleep, you have heard those hours praised before the evening hours that build empires. The time that makes you free. The machine heard the same speech. That is why it booked those hours first. While you were being told the evening was your opportunity. The evening was already sold as inventory. Your fatigue. Scheduled and priced. 6 hours. That narrow strip of every weekday is where the entire fight for your margin is decided. Which is precisely why the most profitable notifications, the sharpest limited time offers, and the brightest icons are scheduled into it. The men who wrote the collection schedule studied the clock before they studied you. I have traced the accounts of men who move millions for a living and still bleed at the same hour as everyone else, a $14 surge-priced burger at 11 o'clock on a weeknight. The window does not check your IQ. And the reason you keep losing inside those 6 hours is that you were handed a defense written for a world where the machine did not exist. Every failed budget I have ever examined. Every collapsed savings plan. Every 11-day streak that ended in a Thursday night delivery order, the trail always leads back to the same shelf. A book published in London in 1859, called Self-Help, by a Scottish writer named Samuel Smiles. It is the book that named and popularized the genre, now filling the front table of every airport bookstore. Smiles believed character was the engine of wealth. And in 1859, for a farmhand whose environment was already built for him by the farm, the factory, and the season, no electric light, no credit card, no infinite scroll, the advice was nearly true. Character was the only variable left. But notice what the doctrine does. Because this is the part that matters for your account balance. A workforce trained to blame its own character never audits the books of the system that is collecting from it. Here is what that doctrine costs. In modern numbers, it converts a $2,184 annual leak into a personality defect. So the leak keeps clearing your account while you keep auditing your character instead of the room. The doctrine survived 167 years, not because it works, measured in destroyed savings accounts. It is one of the most expensive doctrines ever sold. It survived because it keeps the cost of the room filed under your name. So strike the self-blame from the books. The 11 days you lasted on the budget were not a character failure. They were the faithful execution of a doctrine that audits the man and never audits the room. Your books were measuring the wrong column. Now stop. Because Samuel Smiles has been dead for 122 years. And he is not coming to your kitchen at 10:18 on a Thursday night to take the phone out of your hand. The book cannot be unwritten. The machine is not going to disarm itself. The only thing left to decide is who designs the room you walk into tonight, the companies that priced your fatigue. Or you. And the man who answered that question most completely in American history answered it with 50 cents a day and a red notebook. On September 26, 1855, a 16-year-old boy walked into an office in Cleveland, Ohio, and took a clerk's job at a firm called Hewitt & Tuttle. His first 3 months of work paid him about $50, call it 50 cents a day. His name was John D. Rockefeller, and he did something almost no 16-year-old of his century did. He bought a cheap red pocket notebook. Nothing an heir would frame. The kind a clerk buys with pocket change. He named it Ledger A. And from that day forward, not for a month, not for a year, for the rest of his long life, he wrote down every penny he earned and every penny he spent, not as a budget, not as a goal, as a ritual. He did not rely on character. He did not try to be disciplined. He built a single piece of architecture, one notebook, one unbreakable evening entry, and let it run for decade after decade. The empires came later, and the empires required genius. The ledger required only repetition. When he was asked, late in life, what the secret was, he did not mention grit. He mentioned Ledger A. I wrote it down. Every day. That was all. Understand what that means? Rockefeller was not more disciplined than you. He was less dependent on discipline than you. He assumed his own hand was exactly as weak as yours. That is why he built the wall. He removed his character from the equation entirely and let the architecture defend the money. Dr. Smiles would have told him to try harder. The ledger never had to try. I want to put that difference in front of you in physical terms. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Picture a 500-ton train running through the dark. Already moving. Already heavy. That train is the momentum of your spending, your defaults, your saved cards, your evenings. High above the line stands a signal tower. And in it, two men. The first grabs the heaviest lever in the room and throws his whole body against it, trying to force 500 tons onto another track by muscle. His arms shake. The train does not move. That man is you at 10:18 on a Thursday, trying to out-muscle the delivery app with willpower. Doctor, smiles best student, executing the sermon perfectly, and paying for it weekly. The second man does not strain at all. A railway baron in a leather chair? He reaches out and moves one small iron switch exactly 4 inches with 2 fingers. Before the train ever arrives, the geometry of the line changes, and 500 tons glide onto a different track without slowing down. Hold on to this, because it is the entire video in one sentence. The track is not your mood. The track is where the next dollar goes before you touch it. The heavy lever is the willpower Smiles sold you. The small switch is the architecture Rockefeller actually used. And the difference between the two men is not strength. It is that one of them pays the Thursday night tax and the other one priced it once and routed his money around it. Now let me show you the number I promised in the first minute, the denominator. Your salary has been hiding from you. The number that decides your freedom is not what you earn. It is the margin, the cash that actually survives the month after the rent or the mortgage, the lease, the insurance, the loans, and the quiet lifestyle tax that rose in lockstep with every raise you ever received. You have seen this number, even if you have never named it. It is what is left when the accounts clear and the month closes. For most people, earning what you earn, the margin is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Not per month, per year. That thin strip of cash is the entire width of your exit. It is the only money on earth that can ever become savings, investment, or the right to stop trading hours for a paycheck. Now run the division your salary never runs. $2,184 of Thursday night takeout. Against a margin of $5,000. You are not spending 1% of your salary on convenience. You are burning nearly 44% of your only exit. Every Thursday at 10:18. You are not ordering dinner. You are selling another year of mandatory employment for a bag of food you will not remember by Saturday. Run your own division before you sleep tonight. Your tired hour spending for 1 month. Multiplied by 12. Divided by the margin you actually keep in a year. Then, drop the percentage in the comments, a number. Nothing else. No explanation. 6 months from now, when the leak is sealed, that number becomes the first line in your own ledger. And notice what took it. Not a corporation you can name. Not a tax you can protest. The absence of one switch. The margin was not spent. It was collected. Through a path someone else designed. At an hour someone else chose. From a man who was never taught that the margin existed. And I have not yet shown you the full price. Because the Thursday night tax is not really a yearly number. Money rerouted away from your margin does not just disappear once. It disappears along with every dollar it would have become. Run the collected money through the same machine the wealthy run their money through. $2,184 a year is $182 a month. Route that monthly amount into a plain index fund at 8%. No genius required. No stock picking. The most boring instrument in finance. Over a 30-year working life, the compounding engine turns it into more than $250,000. Sit with that. The takeout did not cost $42. It cost $42 plus everything that $42 would have earned while you slept. Multiplied across every Thursday of your working life. $250,000. Paid out one tap at a time. In the 6-hour collection window, to companies that patented the removal of your pause. That is the real invoice. The machine never sends it. Because a man who never sees the invoice never disputes the charge. So we are not going to strengthen your character tonight. We are going to reroute the track. 3 switches, not 100 rituals, 1 keystone, and 2 walls that keep the world from reaching it. Each switch is small enough to survive the hallway between the kitchen sink and the pillow. Because the hallway is the only test that matters. The first switch is the routing. The Baron does not wake up each morning and decide where the trains will run. The routes were set before he went to sleep. Your money must work the same way. The evening your paycheck clears, an automatic transfer moves a fixed amount into an account you do not touch. If a fixed amount frightens the account, start with $20. The routing matters more than the size. You do not negotiate with yourself. You do not decide how much to save this month based on how the week went or what the app is offering at 10:18. The transfer fires before the tired version of you has the option to renegotiate, and notice the hour it fires. The transfer executes in daylight. While the collection window is closed and your judgment is still funded, by the time 6 in the evening arrives and the machine opens for business, the first dollar is already gone. Routed. Off the table. Invisible to the tired hand and the glowing icon alike. The machine cannot collect money that left the account at noon. You built one mechanism that no longer requires discipline to operate. That is the routing. The routing protects the first dollar. The dollar that becomes the exit. By moving it off the main line before the collection window opens. The second switch is the seal. The Baron does not sit in a tower with open windows and hope the weather holds. He seals the room. You do not fight 4,000 marketing attacks a day with willpower. You revoke their access. The delivery app comes off the phone tonight, not hidden in a folder. Deleted. The saved credit card on every shopping site is removed tonight. So that spending money once again requires more motion than keeping it. The subscription you keep meaning to cancel gets canceled now. In a new tab. While you are watching this. Before the tired hand talks you out of it, you are not resisting the train. You are tearing out the tracks that lead into your tower. That is the seal. The seal blocks the impulse dollar. The one the machine had already counted as collected. Every block tap is $12. $42 that stay inside your margin instead of someone else's quarterly earnings. And the third switch is the Keystone. The ledger. You will buy one small notebook, any notebook, ein color, any size, and you will place it exactly where the phone used to rest the nightstand. The desk. Wherever your tired hand reaches at 10:18, when the hand goes out in the dark, it hits paper, not glass. You write one line, not a journal, not a reflection, one number, 10 seconds, the balance in the account, the item you did not buy. Rockefeller kept his ledger in the same place, at the same hour, night after night for decades. And the architecture of that placement walked him from a 50-cent clerk to the wealthiest industrialist the country had ever produced. He did not journal his way to wealth. He placed one object between his hand and the next bad decision, and the architecture made the choice before his tired brain could negotiate. That is the Keystone. The ledger records the dollar that would have disappeared. And there is a rule about that dollar which the entire consumer economy depends on. You never learning a recorded dollar compounds. An unrecorded one evaporates. Look at the reach test one more time. You measured the distance at the start of this video. 4 inches. 8. 12. The test was never about the inches. The test was about whether you would price them honestly. The moment you did, you stopped being the man who believed Dr. Smiles. And you became the man who saw the line item. And the man who sees the line item does not heave at the heavy lever anymore. He moves the small switch. The transfer is scheduled. So the first dollar is already routed. The app is deleted. So the impulse dollar has no track to travel. The notebook is sitting where the phone used to rest, recording the dollar that stayed. The tower wins. Because the tower does not get tired. And there is nothing left in the room for the window to collect. Years from now, there will be a small stack of cheap notebooks at the bottom of a drawer in your home. 10 of them. 15. You will open one to a Thursday night in your 30s when your hand went out at 10:18. Hit paper instead of glass, and wrote one line about what the account was holding. That line is still legible 4 decades later. And so is what it bought, $42, that stayed on your side of the ledger. Multiplied by 1,000 Thursdays. Compounding the whole time. Those notebooks are the receipts of the margin that stayed home. The only architecture that outlived the century that was built to collect it. The book was published in 1859. Dr. Smiles is dead. The machine he could not have imagined is in your pocket right now. And the pen passes to you tonight. The notebook can be sitting where the phone is resting before you close your eyes. The delivery app can come off the phone before this video ends. The automatic transfer can be scheduled before you fall asleep. The switches are set once. The margin survives every Thursday after that. You are the man who builds the tower. And thank you for the minutes you spent here. Spend the next ones on your side of the ledger. One warning the architecture cannot give you. It holds against every force I have named tonight. It does not hold against 6 words. 6 words that teach everyone who hears them to treat your money like theirs. I documented which 6. The tower reroutes every load. The switch holds every line. The notebook blocks every reach. None of them stop the weight of a sentence that leaves a man's mouth at a holiday dinner table in December. There is a fortune older than the architecture you built tonight. Moved across enemy territory in 1815 on a single sealed letter. And the men who carried it understood that the seal was the entire fortune. Theirs held for 2 centuries. Yours is in your mouth right now.